Hello, and welcome to the Off-Meta Umineko Read-Along Podcast, the weekly podcast where I guide my friends and first-time readers through my favorite story of all time, the highly acclaimed murder mystery visual novel Umineko When They Cry. We're discussing its narrative and themes, and they'll work together with our community to try and solve its various mysteries. Hope you all join us on this exciting journey as we delve into the witch's cat box. I'm Kyle J, and joining me on a one-way trip to Rokkenjiima, we have our readers, Ben, Hayley, and Becca. Welcome, y'all. So, how was your read this week?
Hello.
Hello there.
Hi. I know Ben has things to say.
He sure seems to.
I have a lot of things to say.
I feel like, as is in true Hayley tradition, we need to open this by me going, I didn't finish. Yeah. Well,
you're like on the last part that you haven't read, right?
I am, yeah. I'm still ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
We're still good. I've read plenty.
Yeah. There was a lot of reading.
Yeah.
And oh boy, this was probably my least favorite reading we've had so far. I think that there was something in the way that it was written and the way that it was structured that just did not work for me. And I think that you could have cut out 2/3 of this reading and I still would have gotten the same takeaways and felt the same about all the different characters. And I do think this is chalked up a lot to Ange and her connection to Maria. As I said super early in the podcast, I don't do well with kids. And that is continued on through even reading a visual novel where a kid is a part of it. So there are parts of this that I just was reading and I just was trying to get through it as fast as possible because I was bored out of my mind. So that's my negative take on this. But there are some extremely good parts within this reading that I'm very excited to talk about. Particularly the middle part when she's in that timeline that she's in, and right at the very end. The last scene absolutely saved the entire reading for me.
The part that Hayley didn't read, excellent.
I know, I'm so ready to talk about that.
It's funny. I do kind of agree with everything you've just said. Apart from the not liking kids thing, I do like kids. Yeah, it was a weird one for sure.
I think I'm not as hot on the Maria parts of it, but her interactions with Ange I always think are really interesting, and I think it sets up this really interesting narrative dichotomy that exists around Ange that will be really interesting going forward, but we can talk about it when we get there. I was not as bored by this reading as you guys apparently were.
Yeah, I will say I'm not a huge fan of the Ange school segments.
They're bad. I just think they're flat out
and
bad, and they're slow.
They're sad also. Yeah.
And they're not, they're sad, but not in a good way. They don't make me feel anything because they're boring.
Fully agree.
I wish that there was just something that made me care more, but there isn't. And the fact that this reading is sandwiched into a rising action sort of plot line in chapter 4, where you already have 3 episodes of action and stuff built up. This felt like a middle of chapter 1 rising action scene that's put almost 50% of the way through the visual novel, and it just completely kills the tempo from moving from the end of Act 3, where you get this big surprise, and now suddenly you have to throw 3 hours worth of backstory in, when I don't think it was needed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that it will become evident that it was needed at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't believe that I do fully agree, because I actually really enjoy the backstory segments. It's just like his writing was kind of, I mean, I'm not the biggest proponent of his writing anyway, but his writing was kind of extra weak in this one. And like you say, I don't feel like his writing wasn't making me feel anything for the characters as horrible stuff was happening to them. And normally it does. And I care about Maria as a character. I care about Ange as a character. And yet this particular reading didn't invoke any kind of emotion in me whatsoever. It's crazy. because I should have felt really sad, and I was expecting to, based on Kyle's comments before, but didn't get any of that. This was an odd one for sure.
And maybe part of that just the way they were structuring this. Hard to say. And we'll see how it goes moving forward. And we'll see if later things recontextualize the stuff we see today. Let's go ahead and get into it. This week, we are continuing episode 4, Alliance of the Golden Witch, with about 3 hours of VN, ending on the line, "See, it's really simple, isn't it?" And then a lot of witchy laughter.
Wait, you don't want to say that? You don't want to say that out loud?
Giggle, giggle, hohhohoho, hahahahaha, kahhahhaha, kyaaahhahaha.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I cut that down. That was much longer in the VN.
I love that you attempt these things when we ask you to, Kyle. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
And that is videos 58 through 60 of the YouTube playlist. So if you've not caught up to that point yet, go ahead and stop the podcast now and catch up before rejoining us, or if you're just listening to us along for the ride, welcome aboard. Our story resumes with Rosa returning to the mansion, with Maria soaking wet from being out in the rain. After drying off in the parlor, Rosa apologizes to Maria for telling her to stand out there and tells her that though she was a good girl for following her mother's orders, next time she should seek shelter from the rain if something like that happens again. The mother and daughter pair espouses their love for each other over and over again, until we are brought into the meta world where Ange has smashed her teacup in frustration. Excusing herself, she leaves to go process her emotions at the scene that she just witnessed. Maria appears and asks why Ange is so upset. Does she not think that Maria is really happy? Ange summons Maria's diary and says that looking at it objectively, it's impossible. However, Maria responds that what Ange calls objective is just Ange's own perspective. Maria says that truth changes depending on the observer, constantly overwritten by observers from the future. She asks Ange why she is so dead set on erasing Maria's happiness.
Good God.
Oh, my God.
I was so glad that Ange, threw her cup on the floor in frustration, basically.
Me too.
It's like, yes, this is how we have all been feeling every single episode that this particular point of the story has happened. And especially now, seeing all of the extra, the whole "I love you, Maria's" and all that bullshit. Man, it drove me insane reading all of that. So Ange's interjection in that moment was just such a breath of fresh air. And I just want to say, I'm pretty sure Becca called it back in episode 1. I mean, we did it that late, but back in episode 1, that truth is dependent upon the observer of that truth. And so I thought that was cool that it was laid out here nicely as something that we had been discussing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's the common thread of this entire series, is what is the truth and why is the truth what we think the truth is.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole series has seemed like a rumination on that, so it is interesting to watch it evolve.
This series is just a rumination on what can be considered true, so we'll never get a finality of answers because truth is dependent upon us.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I kind of hope we get a finality in terms of we get a winner at the end of all of this. But yeah, I mean, I don't, because here's the thing is, on a certain level, I agree with Maria that truth is dependent on the observer, but there are also observable true facts that can be perceived as true by everyone or agreed upon as true by everyone.
Yeah. The word truth is doing a lot of lifting here. It's very wishy-washy the way they're using it.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. It's all part of how the narrative is developing and the way that they want to twist what the truth is versus what it isn't. But also, I have a note here that I think I want to save until a little bit later about the nature of what does that mean magic is then in a world where magic doesn't exist? What do you consider to be magic? What is truth?
And what is truth? And I also, one thing I wish that I was hoping Ange would do that Battler doesn't do is force the other characters to look at their own perspective on it. What was it? They said that you're trying to erase Maria's happiness, and Maria is obviously missing, like, is obviously actively ignoring some key facts about what has been happening that Ange knows, and yet is willing to just say, yeah, but she's happy. And I'm like, but that doesn't mean that she should be happy. Like, there's a should be here because you're blatantly ignoring some things that are actively doing you wrong. That is just an ignorance that these other characters sometimes throw at our main characters' faces. But it's hard to write when you have to, like, a protagonist isn't allowed to question the morality of an antagonist, I guess.
But do you think Maria, as a 9-year-old, recognizes those things?
No, but who is talking to Ange right now? I don't know if that's a 9-year-old Maria. She certainly doesn't talk like a 9-year-old. It's somebody that is actively trying to shift Ange's perspective on things.
I think it is the Maria that lives in the diary. And the Maria that lives in the diary is a product of what Maria put in that diary as a 9-year-old. And so she has the perspective of her childhood self.
Sure, but I also think that it's being manipulated by Lambdadelta.
Oh, interesting.
Possible.
I don't think that is just pure Maria, personally. I think Maria is being manipulated by Lambdadelta through most of what is happening in Umineko, because she is so easy to manipulate. You play on the things that make her happy, and then suddenly everything's okay.
I'm curious why you think it's Lambdadelta manipulating her when she has a really close alliance with Beatrice.
I think that because Lambdadelta is manipulating Beatrice, I think that overall, the big puppet master of this entire game, unlike what we're led to believe in the first 3 episodes, I think the big puppet master is Lambdadelta.
Well, yes, obviously.
It's Lambdadelta all the way down.
And so therefore, I believe that Lambdadelta is actually the one that's pulling some strings, even less so than Beatrice, making Beatrice feel powerful. That's why Beatrice feels like she's so in control, but at any point, I feel like Lambdadelta can just pull that rug out, and I believe that Maria is part of that rug.
I guess I'm curious why you think Beatrice thinks she's so in control, because Beatrice knows that she's there at the behest of Lambdadelta. The most control she has is over the game board setups.
Yes, but she still has that control, and the game board setups are her domain in a sense, but I don't think that she has as much power as she wants.
I'd agree with that.
I feel like the next 3 hours, taking out the conversation where it goes back to present day Ange in 1990, whatever. Minusing that when they go talk to, like, the professor. That scene, great. Love that. Everything else that leads up until the final scene of this reading is all to talk about this one thing that happens at the beginning of the reading, and is why I feel it's unnecessary. It's all about the Rosa thing, and all of that backstory just kind of compiles. It's a flashback within a flashback. It's like, it's so much stuff that they then insert the important parts, like, in the middle, so you're not fucking bored. Like, I don't know. I'm just, I wish that they could have just put it all within, like, one scene right after she breaks the cup, then jump to where Ange talks to the professor of witchcraft, and then jump to the final scene of the reading. Like, I feel like that would have accomplished so much more in a much quicker amount of time. Anyway, that's my rant. I'm sure I'll rant more.
I want to stand up for the whole Ange learning magic and bonding with Mammon. Like, I think that stuff is important. I don't know how important it will actually be plot-wise later. I think it is important to developing a conflict that exists within Ange as a character that will be very important to the plot at some point. And I liked it. I don't know. I'm gonna stand up and say, you know what? I liked it.
I'm glad that you liked it, Becca.
That's fair. Not every part of every book is for everyone.
True.
But it should be.
This book is longer than the Bible. There were bound to be parts you didn't like.
Yeah, just consider it apocryphal. It's fine.
Oh, dear.
All right, well. We once again enter a scene from Maria's past. Rosa is once again phoning Maria to inform her that she won't be coming home for a while. This time, however, it seems that she needs to be gone for a couple of days. Maria asks Rosa about her promise to go to the movies with Maria that weekend, but Rosa had apparently completely forgotten that promise. Maria says that she will follow all the protocols that Rosa has laid out to disguise the fact that Maria, a child, is without any parental supervision for days at a time. Rosa brushes Maria off and hangs up, leaving Maria and Sakutaro to figure out their plans for the weekend. Apparently, Rosa has been gone a lot lately, supposedly preparing for some big job coming up, and as a result, Maria has been unable to talk with her about anything that has been going on in her life for a while. Sakutaro tries to comfort Maria, reminding her of the importance of Rosa's work and how much she must love Maria. Maria recalls a night where Rosa came home and just laid next to Maria and cried all night, saying that Maria was her only ally in the whole wide world. Sakutaro continues to gaslight, and they decide to have a pajama party. Maria even finds a small red scarf that Rosa had made for her when she was a baby to give as a present to Sakutaro. After a fun-filled night, Maria only laments that she couldn't share this happiness with her mother.
So, goddamn, 2 things. 1, babies shouldn't wear scarves. That is dangerous. Rosa is a terrible mother from the outset, even in the things that she tries to do out of love. 2, man, I thought this little lion dude was her friend. Like, I know. Okay. 3. 3 things. Like, the lion dude saying that, didn't your mother say that you were her only ally in the whole wide world? Rosa even saying that in the first place is yet more evidence of her absolute shitty parenting. You don't say that to a child. Yeah. You just, like, that puts way too much weight and responsibility on them. This poor kid, man. Like, ugh. Yeah. I got so enraged. But I also fell asleep. Literally fell asleep reading these bits. So I don't, man. I'm enraged, but while I was reading it, I was not. Which says that my view on it afterwards has more impact on my emotional state than the actual writing itself.
I mean, I thought it was very affecting. Like, I mentioned in the Discord that as I was reading it that I was like, oh, this part's so hard to get through because it's so tragic watching this child. Like, I mean, if you read it from a non-magical perspective, Sakutaro is just a lens that Maria uses to talk to herself sometimes.
Yeah.
And so she has to make a separate version of herself to convince her to not be so fucking sad all the time, which is awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I was about to say in Sakutaro's defense is that he has the maturity of the person who created him, which is Maria, who is a child. So, like, he doesn't necessarily know right from wrong. He doesn't know how mistreated she is. He just wants her to feel better.
Yeah, I hear that. And it wasn't supposed to be my point too, but I got, like, distracted by my own annoyance at that particular moment.
I get more annoyed at the story for, like, and I feel more for the story with you reading a summary back than me reading it in person.
Yeah.
So,
that's because I make the subtext text.
Like, when you just put it all, when you lay it out there, it's great. It's like a great idea. But then when they put it into the words in which they use in the visual novel, it's so wordy. There are so many times that they reiterate the same thing. To Hayley's point of, like, reiterating points, they also do that trying to nail home how people should feel about this, that it loses its effectiveness.
Yep.
Okay.
The stuff that really hit me in this section was the conversation she has with Rosa, but also it's the tossed off lines where he'll occasionally be like, yeah, in the past, I've cried so loud that it bothered the neighbors when mom didn't come home and she got upset with me. And so I'm not going to do that. Like, it's those little tossed off things that are like, that really kind of drive it home. Which
the level of beated downness this child must have. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
I can't even phrase it properly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so irresponsible and disgusting as an adult to expect a child to handle that kind of isolation and make them take care of themselves like that.
Yeah, don't go to the same shop multiple times or else they'll call CPS on us. And it's like, oh, yeah, maybe they fucking should call CPS on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, that's the acknowledgement. You're acknowledging that what you're doing is fucked up. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. It's really horrific.
In the meta world, Maria asks Ange if she can see how happy Maria and Sakutaro are, but Ange can still only see tragedy. She asks Maria how she can just ignore Rosa forgetting her promise, and Maria is easily able to come up with excuses for her mother, clearly used to doing so. Ange interprets the whole pajama party as Maria making a mess of her room out of sadness at being abandoned by her mother, but Maria simply asks her where such a thing is written in her diary. Ange says that she can read between the lines. Aunt Rosa always put her work and her public image first, always keeping Maria on the back burner. It all just shows how superficial Aunt Rosa's words of love towards Maria truly are, and why she couldn't stand to watch that scene between the two of them in the mansion. Ange pleads for Maria to recognize the sadness in her own life, as even now, Ange is unable to understand how Maria can claim to be happy. However, Maria can only pity Ange, who refuses to accept a happiness she can't understand herself. Ange is jealous of Maria's power to turn sadness and loneliness into happiness, and Maria says that at this point in her life, even she didn't understand what this power was. However, on a later page, she will.
okay, so one thing that I forgot to mention earlier is that scene between Rosa and Maria on the island where Rosa is literally doing her ooh-oohs back to her felt like a fever dream.
Yep.
That felt so unreal. It felt, and when Ange breaks her teacup and leaves, I was like, understandable. I would feel the same way. But the writing makes a point to point out that even Beato is surprised by her leaving, supposedly. And that really threw me because I was like, why would this be in here if it wasn't like a pointed thing to piss off Ange? Because it is so weird. Like, we have never seen Rosa behave like that. We've seen her indulge Maria. We've seen her call her a good girl. We've seen her give her Sakutaro. We've never seen her imitate that vocal tick that she loathes so much and literally hits her over, that I felt like I was going insane.
Yep.
So that felt so unreal that for Beato to be surprised that it made Ange want to leave the room shocked me as a reader, because I was like, why is this happening if it wasn't on purpose to piss off Ange? Like, it's so weird to me. I don't know. It creeped me out so much. It's really creepy. I'm interested. I actually, like, I understand why you guys were bored with this reading, because, like, thinking about that, I really, really want to get back to the action that's happening on the island.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do understand as well. Like, this is not the most action-packed or interesting part. It's a slow-ass segment that is kind of hammering home one note, and it's not a fun note to linger on either. So it's like, yeah, it's a lot, and it takes a while to get through it.
I think the biggest issue for me was that it was a note we already knew. Like, it's a note that's already been brought up, and people should be able to infer from any looking into what Maria and Rosa's relationship is like, especially episode 2.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest issue. I get that Ange is a character that can only be introduced now. I get that. But they're using Ange as a method to explain more of Maria, where I don't think more of Maria needed to be explained.
I think that's somewhat fair, yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
There are elements here that I think are worth getting into, but yeah, like, it's tough to devote this much time to stuff that is, a lot of it's very similar to stuff we already know.
So the element that I think is the most interesting here is Maria is talking about how she has the power to, like, not be sad in this situation when Ange finds it pitiable, and she doesn't know what this power is. And the spoiler alert, guys, the power is magic. Shocking.
No one could have seen that coming.
But then that begs the question, what is magic? Especially in a world where we're firmly in mystery land and magic doesn't exist to us. Does that just mean magic is a delusion? Is magic the power to create your own truth? And when people create their own truths that don't jive with reality, what do we usually call that? A delusion.
Yeah.
The current state of most of the world.
Fair.
Hopefully, truths of the future will override the truths of the past. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting theory. We'll have to see how that pans out.
I honestly don't know. I was curious if anyone else was thinking about that and thought that way, because to me it is literally like Maria's thinking up imaginary friends. Like, I don't know how else you want to describe it, but yeah.
Like, that's her magic. It's like magic is really individual and personal depending on who's wielding it. They all have different names, right? She's the Witch of
Origins,
yes. And then,
Yeah, not to be confused with the Witch of Gen Con, but the Witch of Origins, yes.
Wow. Wow.
That
was so good and yet so forced at the same time.
Have you been sat on that one for a while, Kyle, or did that just come to you?
Well, because so when I was writing the summary, I forgot that I wrote a joke in there saying that when she says that she was the Witch of Origins, I said that it's probably next to Deception Corner, but it's like, oh, that's Gen Con. So that's why it was in my brain, because I had a failed joke already in there cooking.
Amazing.
That's so perfect. So niche.
Flawless deployment.
We're so good at off-meta at being niches within niches. Our appeal is so narrow.
And yet we're here.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, what is magic? Just whatever you choose it to be, kind of feels like.
Or whatever you need it to be is what it really seems like. What do you need it to be? What do you, as a person, not necessarily a human, but as a person, what do you need more than anything? And Maria needed friends, so now she can create them.
Yeah.
When Rosa finally returns from her trip, she is surprised to see Maria's happy greeting, as usually Maria annoyingly clings to her and cries when she is gone for extended periods of time. Rosa is pleased that her gift of Sakutaro has allowed Maria to happily play by herself. As promised, she brings Maria and Sakutaro a gift for being so good, an assortment of cakes, and a collection of small ceramic animal figurines playing musical instruments. However, the happy moment is destroyed in an instant when Maria picks up a piece of paper that had accidentally fallen out of Rosa's coat. Even though Maria doesn't understand what it is, Rosa immediately snatches it out of her hands with an angry expression, leaving Maria, who attempts to salvage the happiness of the evening with more excuses. In the meta world, Ange can't stand to continue reading. The paper was a ticket stub for a place in Atami, a location famous for its hot springs. Rosa was clearly lying about having to work over the weekend, and was taking a vacation with some man while leaving Maria all alone. Maria continues to come up with excuses and chastises Ange for refusing to find the happiness scattered all around her, and instead searching for a world with zero unhappiness that she will never find. If a single piece of paper could destroy such a happy night, perhaps a single piece of paper could also do the opposite. Back in Maria's memories, Rosa, having retreated to her room, regrets ruining the moment of bonding with her daughter that she hadn't been able to see in so long. Finding the letter that Maria had written for her, she runs back to Maria, hugs her, and cries, apologizing.
She ain't sorry. Man, not really. She wouldn't be doing it in the first.
Fuck no.
I don't know, man. I wonder if Rose is actually like an escort of some kind, and the business is just a cover. Her behavior feels either like something that she would want to keep secret, something that she needs to keep covered up.
Yeah, it's tough because with like Japanese culture, it's hard to say. Like, it could be something really mundane, but like just the way that Japanese culture treats it might make it, you have to treat it as mysteriously as someone who would be, like a sex worker would have to do it.
Yeah. Or like she's on like a load of drugs. Like her behavior just feels like that of an addict in some ways. Or somebody who's doing something risky, which is why she takes the seemingly lesser risk of leaving her daughter alone for such a long time. Like, she must feel like she really needs to do this, and I struggle to believe that's just for a job. Like, and so, which is why I think it's like addict behavior, because there's logic overrides, addict behavior overrides logic, right? Like, and that's, I don't know. And I know people like have left their kids alone because of they don't have the economic stability to support their families, and that's what this is trying to make, or what Rosa is trying to make us believe, I think. But I don't think that that's what's actually happening, because I think if she was truly unable to support her family, she would go home to her dad, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or at least ask for money before leaving her child alone. Like, I'm trying to get into Rosa's head, with like why she makes these decisions.
Right. Like, there's that you're 100% correct. Like, theoretically, if her money is that bad, she should be able to rely on the fact that she has wealthy parents, if it really came down to it, or stay on Rokkenjiima where they have a mansion. Like, there's a lot of things that theoretically she could do and is choosing not to. And so it's either a pretty serious condemnation of Rosa as a person who values her pride over all those things, or there is something potentially more nefarious going on.
Yeah, and whether that's nefarious in that she can't go to Kinzo because he is such a disgusting piece of shit, or if it's nefarious in that it is something that Rosa's doing. I don't know. We don't know yet, if ever.
See, none of the listeners can see me, but I've been nodding emphatically like this whole time. Yes, because I have also been trying to just rack my brain for why on earth she would do this, knowing that when she leaves Maria alone, she cries so loud that she bothers the neighbors.
Yeah.
Like what would drive you to do this repeatedly and to expect the worst when you come home, to the point that you're shocked and awed when the opposite is true?
Yeah.
And yeah, I wonder if it genuinely is a financial situation, or I actually really like that your read on it, on her potentially being an addict or like a sex worker. Like, those are things that might make this make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kinzo, we know, is an abuser as well. So is it just financial? Like, I don't see that being completely out of the realm of possibility. But I am really interested to know if we'll ever get Rosa's side of this, like to know more about Rosa's inner personal life. So
yeah, it's curious. It really is. And I just want to be clear, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with sex work, and I don't think being an addict is the addict's fault either, right? Like, it's it's a very nuanced thing. But just the behavior just seems like something that people are typically ashamed of in a lot of facets of society.
Yes. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, I think a lens of shame is definitely something to keep in mind for Rosa. I think it's very interesting. In the meta world, Maria says that small things like that ticket stub are no match for the love between Maria and Rosa. Ange says that Maria's happiness is far too painful for her. Maria says that she had taught Ange the source of this power that Maria has long ago, and that she merely needs to remember, and that Beatrice will teach her. Beatrice then appears and explains that this power is magic. Dun dun dun, who could have seen that coming? We suddenly find ourselves at a tea party in a lovely garden where Maria introduces Sakutaro to Beatrice. Beatrice asks Maria if it is commonplace for her to be able to breathe a soul into inorganic matter like this. Beatrice says that while all children impart some degree of magic into their dolls when they play with them, it is easily destroyed by the toxin of common sense and reverts to being inanimate. However, without even summoning some other entity into this vessel, from the Sea of Zero, Maria was able to create this new entity. According to Maria, she has many friends just like this at home. To her, this magic that awed Beatrice was simply normal. Beatrice says that despite Maria only being a witch's apprentice, her power to create something from nothing is beyond exceptional, Beatrice explains that to make 100 from 1 is simple, but creating 1 from 0 is not so easy. Someday, when Maria fully comes into her own power, she might even be more powerful a witch than even Beatrice herself. As a welcome gift to Sakutaro, Beatrice decides to give him a new form so that he can manifest even without his stuffed animal vessel. Virgilia also arrives and uses magic to give Sakutaro a candy. Using Maria's grimoire, Beatrice writes up a magic document of power, with Virgilia's signature as a witness. Sakutaro's existence is accepted by the higher world and granted a new form, and accepted into Mariage Sorcière. Sakutaro's form shifts. No longer a mere stuffed animal, he is now a lion-eared boy of about Maria's age, wearing an oversized yellow robe and red scarf. Sakutaro is nervous about his new form, but everyone assures him that he is very cute. Beatrice also grants Maria the title of Apprentice Witch of Origins, as one who may someday become a creator, able to create galaxies on their own. Beatrice also uses her magic to grant Maria a witch's outfit of her own. Back in the meta world, Ange watches on. Maria, now wearing her witch outfit, urges Ange to not be afraid of being happy. She says that being happy isn't the same thing as accepting your current misfortune. It means creating new happiness within your current misfortune. That is the magic of origins. Ange laments that she has been unable to acknowledge her current world, so isolated and painful as it is, and that is why she couldn't make use of Maria's magic of origins. But Maria says that she will teach Ange. No, she already did teach her long ago, and Ange used to be able to use it herself. After all, Ange was also a member of Mariage Sorcière long ago.
Alright, let's talk about this. So, this was all too much and very unnecessary. Just period, end of story. I don't know. I like Sakutaro, the role that he had before, and I think it went beyond what it needed to be for me to care. And, like, I don't know, they start referencing this, the last paragraph that you just read just references so much stuff that we just have never talked about before, and they're throwing it in the middle of episode 4. Like, this is the thing. If they had talked about this stuff and then revealed it over the course of, I don't know, episode 1, things would feel better. Because I would be like, oh, I don't know what this means yet, but I'll figure it out. And now I'm in episode 4, and I'm sad.
Oh, no.
I mean, there's still so much more to go.
They do this every episode, though.
Yeah.
They introduce some new character, some new information that we've never been privy to that is just now, this is what we're doing now.
And I disliked it then. Like, other than Renove, like, he barely got a backstory. I love the way they introduced him and just moved on. Like, but the whole fight, the castle fighting scene, I hated that too. Episode 2, when they brought out the swords, I disliked that as well. All of it just feels very unnecessary.
You just don't like magic. It's fine.
Give me more red and blue. I want the troops.
Yeah, we haven't seen a red and a blue for a while.
Do we even get any in this episode? Is there
Not
any
in this episode.
I didn't read?
No, there's none.
Zero.
Oh no! Well, Ben,
What
this
is-
must have been torture.
What is there for me?
You get a professor, a scholar. talking about-
I'm so excited to talk about
talking
this
about
professor.
magic.
I know. Yes, but talking about magic is different than 3 people who believe magic exists and are referencing stuff we don't know, as opposed to talking about the concept of magic in relation to the story that we're actively reading. And we'll get there. I think it's one of the best scenes so far was them going out of their way to bring in 2 characters that are not part of the original 18 to talk about this mystery like they are readers of it like we are. I think that is so neat.
Yeah.
But the whole lead up into it has nothing to do with that.
Well, let's listen to Kyle tell us about it then.
Let's go.
All right. Returning to the world of 12 years in the future, we see Ange having lunch with Professor Otsuke. I don't know how to pronounce his name because I don't remember them saying it. A renowned studier of the Western occult. A year after the incident, Eva had put up for auction a collection of Kenzo's occult texts, and Professor Otsuki had been brought in to assess their value. With Kenzo having been one of the top 5 authorities of demonology in Japan, and vastly wealthy, he had acquired a library of historic value to researchers of the occult. As a result, when these books were put up for auction, Rokkenjiima and the Ushirimiya Library became well known throughout the occult community internationally. when shortly after, a message bottle was found describing the events of the Rokkenjiima incident as being the work of the witch Beatrice. The Rokkenjiima witch legend became established. The message bottle had been discovered by a fisherman on a nearby island, and kept as a mere curiosity until Rokkenjiima had been brought under the global spotlight as a result of the Ashirmiya library. While the notebook pages in the wine bottle had Ashirmiya Maria's signature attached to them, the handwriting was confirmed to not be a match. However, its credibility and mystery was vastly increased when it was then announced that the police had recovered a similar message bottle with the same handwriting during their investigations on the day of the incident, estimated to have been cast out to sea no earlier than a few days beforehand. The contents of the message bottles were two contradictory accounts of the events of the day of and before the accident, from Ashirmiya Maria's perspective, and thus the witch legend serial murder case and the mystery of the Golden Witch Beatrice were born. 12 years later, occult interest in Rokkenjiima has only increased, as the only survivor, Ashirmiya Eva, refuses to speak on what really happened on those 2 days. In fact, for the 10-year anniversary, an international convention was held in New York for witch hunters from across the globe to gather and speculate on the truth of what happened from an occult perspective. While Professor Otsuki continues to prattle on, Ange takes a moment to think about the message bottles herself. Given the length of the writings, it is highly likely that whoever wrote them did so over several days leading up to the killings. And so, with Eva being killed in both of the recovered tales, Ange begins to think that maybe she wasn't the culprit after all. Perhaps she was just another target of this mysterious mastermind and had happened to survive when the killer's plans went awry. Wrapping up her discussions with Otsuki, Ange asks him to compare his studious memory of the handwriting of the message bottle author with a passage from Maria's grimoire, signed by Beatrice. A perfect match. Shocked, Otsuki begs Ange to let him further investigate this book, but she throws him a stack of money and quickly leaves. Sumidera Katsumi arrives at the professor's home, seeking to capture Ange, but having used the Sumidera name, Ange had managed to give her pursuers the slip and meet with the professor at a different location.
Kumasawa done it. She just did. Like, for some, we've hardly seen her. She is the, other than Nanjo, and I just refuse to believe that it's Nanjo, Kumasawa is the one that we know the least about, has appeared the least, and now we're saying that this was written over a number of days. She would have been in the perfect position to do that. What does she even do on the island all day? We don't know. She pops up and makes mackerel jokes and disappears again. She had plenty of time to write all of these versions of this story and kill the whole family and set her whole plan into motion. I am even more, like, this whole scene has truly, like, what's the word? Cemented my Kumasawa opinion now.
Yeah, it is not baseless.
I feel like my eyes are a bit demented as I'm saying that, like, oh my god!
Where's the tinfoil hat?
Those are legitimately points. I mean, yeah, Kumasawa does line up with what is kind of laid out here.
I cannot refute anything that you just said. I think it is legitimately a possibility that is the case. However, I do think that there is somebody that we have yet to meet that is actually the real culprit of all this, personally.
Interesting.
That is writing this and, like, knows something about how these games are formed, like the game that Battler is currently playing in. And I think the whole reasoning that there are multiple accounts of what's going on. We have 2 message bottles, and then we're looking in the world of the third, like, episode. Message bottle 1, message bottle 2, episode 3. We're living in episode 3's world in 1992 or whatever. These need to happen to create this set of not paradoxes, but like this set of alternate realities allowing the game to form, where you're in a black box, a cat box, a Schrodinger's cat box, if you will, where you don't know what happens, and this allows for this game to happen in the first place. If you don't have a mystery, or you don't have like a catalyst for what could be causing all of these issues, like a black box that people on the outside can't look into, then these games can't happen in the first place.
Kumasawa done it. But so my only other note for this scene was, why New York? This didn't happen anywhere near New York. What in the does that lend it like scholarly respect for it to be New York? It's just such an odd choice to hold a conference on a murder on an obscure Japanese island that, like, from 15 years ago or whatever. It's bizarre.
Yeah, I guess it's become that internationally famous by that point. Yeah.
That's just how global it is.
US has always had a lot of weebs. These are just the weebs before the weebs.
That's true.
Oh, you're so right. These
yeah.
are the 90s weebs coming together in
exactly.
1996.
And what do weebs love doing? Having conventions.
Yeah.
The Witch of Gen Con.
Yeah, we do.
I loved this, and like was legitimately shocked out of my stupor when this scene came up and like all of this stuff came up, and I'm like, oh, I care about this again. I don't know. It brought so much more mystery and like relevance to what is actually happening. Like we know that there was more than just one message bottle that we got at the end of credits 1. We know that there are 2 that have conflicting accounts from Maria's perspective, which is wild because we're following Battler's perspective. So what is causing Battler to be like the main character if the main character in these letters is Maria? Just a lot of questions I don't have answers to, but it brings up very fun questions that I'm excited to explore more.
Yeah.
Angie was a boss as well. The way she like
Angie's always a boss when she's
no, she
real.
Isn't.
No,
oh, yes.
So
okay, fair.
when she's a real human being in episode 3, following like all of the shit that she went through with Ava, she's legitimately a good person and like a fun character. And when she's brought as a witch's like furniture, she sometimes sucks. Sometimes she's great. When she's around Battler, she's great. But like sometimes she just doesn't know exactly what she is, and I think that's even better said near the end of this episode. But we'll get there.
And that's why
Yes.
Angie's always great, in my opinion. I'm a fan of Kumasawa done it, even though we know that he confirms the handwriting to be Beatrice's inside the message bottles.
But who's Beatrice?
Listen,
Kumasawa.
Yes, exactly. She's Virgilia. She's Lambdadelta. She's Burncastle.
She can't be all these people.
She can
That's
because
too many.
because of the way
Kumasawa is
that
the witch of multiplicity.
magic does what you need it to do. Kumasawa, for some reason, needs.
Magic doesn't exist.
But we have to. So I have Kumasawa in both. In both magic, she is the witch. We've seen her as Virgilia, like turned into Virgilia, right? And I have her as an actual, like, mystery, real culprit who orchestrated this whole thing. She is both. Like, I think she fits the bill for both, genuinely.
I think it's fair, yeah.
But what if Nanjo and Kumasawa are in it together?
Yes. Okay.
What if
Wait.
Nanjo is Kumasawa?
Like, what if they're actually, like, secretly together? Like, and, like, that's part of this entire thing. For whatever their granddaughter that he mentions at the end of episode 3, what if it's all for her?
I'm here for it. I love it. We're back to a romance again. Yes.
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 I think this is a good path to explore. Mostly so it gets my favorite character back in the game. So.
Yeah. Having escaped to an expensive confidential hotel, Angie lays on a bed with Maria's diary and talks to her about how Angie had previously learned Maria's magic of origins back when she too was a member of Mariage Sorcière. Maria begins walking Angie through the process of using magic. With Angie's magic power greatly weakened from disuse, her magic is especially vulnerable to the anti-magic toxin produced by other humans, and must make sure to prepare a completely isolated space. Next, Angie needs a vessel to summon from. She contemplates using her hair ornaments, hoping to summon Battler with them, but Maria sadly tells her that may only have been possible if she had kept up her studies this entire time. Angie instead decides to use one of the metal stakes of purgatory that had been recovered from the accident site. The stake, Mammon, is the only surviving one of the 7 Sisters of Purgatory. With Maria also having been a member of Mariage Sorcière, her grimoire contains the methods of summoning and handling them in great detail. Filling her head with knowledge of Mammon, Angie is ready to attempt the summoning. Maria offers Angie her talisman as protection, as Angie is no longer protected under the Treaty of the Alliance, and Mammon might still bear a grudge. Sufficiently protected, Angie begins the summoning spell, imagining a vast, untainted space, free of the anti-magic toxin. Mammon's stake begins to float as the whirlwind fills the hotel room, and suddenly the stake darts about the room and attempts to embed itself in Ange's forehead, only stopped by Maria's protective charm. Unable to gouge Ange, Mammon gives up her stake form and appears. Mammon is surprised to see Ange, as it has been quite some time since Ange has last summoned her, and it seems they may not have left on good terms. Maria confirms that Ange is the new master of the Seven Sisters of Purgatory, and Mammon asks Ange if her assistance is required for a new ritual, reminding her that she will only do so if Ange is willing to handle Mammon herself and get her own hands dirty. No, Ange says that she only wishes to talk, like they used to. Ange urges Mammon to be lively, but Mammon reminds her that the Seven Sisters were lively because they were all together. She then goads Ange into attempting to summon more of her sisters, and despite Maria's warning, Ange does so. She manages to summon 5 of the sisters before collective mental strain causes her to pass out.
I'm really frustrated that Ange, okay, fine, when she was younger, like, very lonely, bullied, had a need for the magic. But why is she suddenly, like, she's just, like, revealed all this stuff with this conversation with the professor, and suddenly she's like, let me try magic again. What? I don't like it. It bugs me.
I think she's looking at it from different lenses. She's trying to get the full perspective. As you said, she needs to both look at it from the mystery side and the magic side to get the full view of what is happening.
That's very generous of you, Kyle.
Thank you.
They do say that.
I know. It doesn't stop me from being any less frustrated. Any more, well, I don't know. You understand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love that this dichotomy exists within her, though, because she's ultimately her goal, her only wish is, I want my family back, right?
Mm-hmm.
She just wants her family back. On the one hand, the one way to get her family back is to beat Beatrice and deny her and deny witches and get Battler and everyone else the hell out of there, if she can. On the other hand, if she can learn how to summon them, why not? She just wants her family. And I love that she's torn between both of these choices. I'm so confused on the timeline on some of this stuff with Ange as well.
Yeah, that is fair.
Yeah.
Because they only have like the one sprite of her in her school uniform that represents Ange of the past. And it's like, that's like a 12-year period. So it's really not clear when this is happening.
Yeah. Like this stuff where she summons 5 of them and passes out, we know is contemporary because she's with bodyguard boy in the other room.
Amakusa, yeah.
Yeah. And we know that that's current.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the scene where she first learns how to summon them, that comes later in the summary because it comes later in the chapter. Happens sometime before that, but how early? Unclear.
Don't know. Yeah. Sometime during her days at St. Lucia Academy, that's all we know.
Wait, is that... Oh, so the very first time that Maria taught her. So I kind of think that, yes, it's current day, as in 1998, and she's doing all of this investigative stuff. And I feel like the uniform is a nod to her having to be a student of magic. Rather than us being back in the school. I mean, I don't know that we necessarily... Did we see that she was when she originally learned it? I feel like we only have seen...
Okay, let me go over the timeline a little bit, because I think we do technically know enough that I can explain some of this timeline a little bit. Okay. So, at Lucia's Academy, Ange is bullied and sad and lonely, and she has Maria's diary, which she eventually gets because the stuff from the salvage from like all the Ushirimiya family eventually comes into her hands, and she eventually gets a hold of the diary while she's still a student, while she's still under Eva's care, and she starts reading Maria's diary, and from that she creates this version of Maria manifested from the soul that Maria has put into her diary, and that is the conversation she has when she's in her school uniform. And through that is where she learns magic for the first time.
Yeah.
She reads through the diary, she reads through Maria's grimoire, and she learns Maria's magic during that time. And so the Maria that we see talking to Ange is, I believe, the manifested soul Maria that is teaching Ange magic via her reading her diary.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And this scene is kind of cut interestingly because it's like, oh, Angie in the future is remembering the time when she first learned to use magic from the diary.
Yeah, that makes sense. You hate this, don't you, Ben?
Well, I wasn't going to say anything. But this scene, I do think that this scene was the absolute worst in the reading. It took way too long to summon 5 fucking stakes of purgatory and then not even get to all 7. Like,
yeah. His problem is the efficiency. The efficiency of the summoning.
That's the point, Ben. It's hard.
It just...
Had she been a better summoner, he would have been fine with it. It's just that it took so long for 5 stakes.
Or if she wouldn't have done it at all.
She hasn't practiced in years.
I know, and she shouldn't start now.
She has to save her family.
Yeah.
Man.
I do some, like, if you're looking at this from a mystery perspective, this is a very kind of tedious segment.
All of this was a fever dream. She didn't actually do any of it. She just passed out in her hotel room.
I mean, that's an argument, right? Like, that's the mystery side of it. This is just a reflection on her younger days as she dreams.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it gets worse.
All right, well, let's get to it. As Angie falls asleep, she remembers how she had learned magic from Maria of the diary when she was still at St. Lucia Academy. Even though she didn't believe in magic, she sought the method that Maria had used to find happiness to ease her own lonely and cruel school days. After Angie successfully imagines a vast empty space, Maria demonstrates by summoning Beatrice's furniture, the 7 Sisters of Purgatory. The sisters all excitedly try to hug Sakutaro, and Angie is surprised to see such opposites being friendly with each other. Maria tells her that all furniture in Mariage Sorcière have a mutual non-aggression, non-interference pact with each other, and thus even the deadly 7 Sisters of Purgatory can be friends with the lovable Sakutaro. Maria then transfers the maintenance of the summoning over to Angie so that she can train in maintaining summons during her daily life. However, this proves to be too much for Angie, and the 7 sisters are forced to vanish one after another, until just one remains, Mammon. However, Angie promises that one day she will summon all the 7 Sisters of Purgatory together again. Sakutaro suddenly reminds Angie of the time, and the scene wavers until we see that Angie is sitting alone in the bathroom stall. It is time for her to have to return to her room for the night. Resummoning Mammon, Angie heads to the hall for the dormitory roll call before bed. Angie enjoys being able to voice her complaints to Mammon silently in her head, but the thing that she really wants to summon one day is her family. However, Mammon says that summoning residents of another world is one thing, but resurrecting the souls of the dead is completely different. Also, since she lacks a vessel related to her mother or father, it would be exceptionally difficult. Angie does, however, have something from Battler, the cheap plastic pink hair ornaments that she always wears. One day, many years ago, Battler had taken Angie to an amusement park and had won her these very hair ornaments from a crane game for her. Since then, they have always represented Battler and how she could always count on him. Mammon is excited that one day Angie might become a witch of resurrection, possibly even more powerful than her previous master, Beatrice. Mammon continues to talk with Angie until she falls asleep, and Angie once again promises to reunite the 7 Sisters of Purgatory someday.
Why? Why are we in a flashback in a flashback? Why are we doing this?
Yeah. We are in fact so flashback that Angie, upon returning to the witch's game, is like, what? What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, that's how we felt. It just... Alright, that's all I'll say on that segment. Let's get to the fun segment. But let's hear anybody else that has to comment. Better thoughts.
I fully understand why this is boring as hell and like why people may not enjoy reading this. It is not told in the most riveting way. However, I do find all of the details within it to be colorful and interesting, and I like them a lot. So I forgive it for that reason, I guess. Maybe it's just because I like learning about Angie a lot. It did actually make me remember who all of the 7 Sisters of Purgatory are. Somehow. Never thought that would happen, but here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see both sides. It's such a cop-out, isn't it? I agree with Ben. I really struggled, but I do see what you're saying about the colour that it adds. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I mean, these are not my favorite segments. I think episode 4 as a whole kind of suffers from that. It has a lot of, it has the burden of doing Ange's backstory, which becomes a vehicle for doing Maria backstory, and it's very hit or miss. But there are definitely some really great parts contained within it.
I thought you said that episode 4 was your favorite. Was that 3?
No. 4,
5?
I mean, 5 and 6 are my favorite.
Oh, okay. I can't believe we're not even halfway.
Some say Umineko doesn't start until episode 5.
What the?
But I wasn't going to say that.
It doesn't start until 5?
I love that.
Some say.
I'm so ready for that.
Some
That,
say.
like, to
My
me,
God.
that's exciting. That's exciting that all of this is just a preface to the actual story. So,
You know,
I mean-
you say your bit first, Becca.
The YouTube playlist is 170 videos, and we're only 60 videos in. So
exactly. We still have 110 to go.
Wait, oh my God. So the end of episode 4 is not even halfway through that video list.
I mean, the chapter length varies.
it gets almost halfway through. I think some of the later videos are like only a couple minutes long because they're like little supplementary bits, but
Oh, okay.
still, like we're
Yeah.
oh, if this really doesn't actually get going until like well into the second half, what? Oh my God!
It's just okay. It's not that it doesn't get going. It's just that it's a different story in the second half. In a way that, like, the people who love Umineko often they love Umineko because of 5 and 6, as like the defining part of it.
Interesting.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
That's
So,
exciting.
I still
Noe.
love 1 through 4, but 5 and 6 are just like the heart of what makes Umineko the greatest story ever told, in my opinion.
I mean, that's fair. Lost becomes a completely different show in seasons 4 and 5, which 5 is the best.
I gave up on Lost, much like I gave up on Lord of the Rings and would have given up on Umineko.
Yeah.
Hey, you're
That's why we have your
killing
leg
me.
chained to this table with a ball and chain
Yeah.
to make you forced to play this game, even if you wish to leave.
Wait, why is
know-
it chained to? Why is it chained to both the ball and the table?
Why not? Like, the table's chained to the floor, and I'm chained to the table, and the
But where does the
chain
ball
is
come in?
chained to the ball, and then
The
the
ball is
ball's
the- is the
also chained
globe.
to the floor.
So-
It's a weird visual. I wouldn't stress too much over it. You might get a migraine.
See, I care more about this than I cared about the entire reading.
Yeah, we have done a I don't know if it'll get released, but we did a recording like a Hayley Adam Tyler podcast, which hopefully will be coming soon
Ooh.
to the main Off Meta channel, called Hard at Play. I'm not sure if it was a test or if this is actually going to be episode 1, but in that I was talking about Umineko and how I feel like Kyle really buried the lead when he pitched this to us. And now you saying it doesn't even start until episode 5, because he opened it with like, I have this story, like there's this story, it's in my opinion, the greatest one ever told. I think it'd be really cool to do a book club discussion about it. By the way, it's like 600 hours of reading. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I didn't bury the lead. I put the lead right in front. I said, it's really fucking long.
You can't accuse him of lying like Burncastle.
No,
This
no,
was
he
not
didn't
witchy
lie.
behavior on
He
Kyle's part.
absolutely didn't lie, but now
Yeah.
my point is this is true burying the lead, because I am now finding out it doesn't start for a whole
Well,
other
this is what
episode.
some people say. Some people say it doesn't
Yes.
start till 5.
The real Umineko fans, apparently, though.
Yeah. Oh man, I am enjoying this journey with you all.
Me too.
Yeah, I think the podcast is also one of the, it makes it so much fun, yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, fun fact from the part of the reading we just did, when Professor Otsuki talks about witch hunters, that is actually a nod by the writer Ryushi7 to the translation group that made the English patch for his games originally, that allowed people in America to read the stories in English. The group was called Witch Hunt. And so, as a nod to them, he named the people who were trying to solve the mystery from an occult perspective witch hunters.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's
'cause
really
I'm
cool.
That's
reading
cute.
using the Witch Hunt translation. That's what I've
as am
I've
I,
not-
and so is Capelli. Yep.
Oh, I love that.
And then there's Becca.
Yeah.
That's really cute.
Who's, using the YouTube playlist.
So, Becca, I'm curious because you said you watched the anime. How much of this part is like in the anime that goes through the entire like questions arc.
Wait, Becca's Anime Corner!
Thank you, Hayley.
We have to do that every time now, Ben, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. I signed the contract.
I'm sorry to disappoint. I literally have no memory.
Okay, cool.
It's like,
I mean, it's because it was this is such an impactful part of the story. How could you forget?
That's
the
why I
part
wanted
where
to know.
Ange summons Mammon.
I honestly cannot believe that I forgot about the Sakutaro stuff. Like I feel like it has to be in the anime, right? But I truly
It is.
no idea. Because
Right.
Ange only shows up in like episode 19, maybe 18 of 26.
Mhm.
So yeah, I truly don't remember. I will be watching though to report on it by the end of this episode arc, so I can report back on that.
Perfect.
Fun.
Awesome.
And that will be the end of Anime Corner because there
It
is no
will.
anime for any of the answer arcs.
Yeah.
So they literally only did the question arcs. Okay.
And the story hasn't even started, according to Kyle.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I never learned truly what Umineko could be. So
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
we're all in it now.
I'm so ready.
All right, let's continue. Let's wrap up this segment. Angie suddenly finds herself coming back to the world of the witch's game, remembering how she had left after seeing Maria and Rosa on the game board. However, as she is about to return, Mammon comes to retrieve her. Mammon asks Angie if she is happy getting to see Battler again and if she will fight against Beatrice to try and save him. Angie says that she is and that she will, and Mammon apologizes for being unable to assist her, as in this current time period, she is still Beatrice's furniture. It is only in the future that she becomes Angie's friend, and eventually, as Mammon says, is thrown away by Angie. Suddenly Mammon is injured by the rule that prevents Angie from revealing her identity, and Angie agrees to return to her role as Gretel swiftly to save Mammon more pain. However, time suddenly seems to stop for everyone but Angie, and Lambdadelta appears. Lambdadelta tells Angie that Berncastle has lied to her. Even if she does win, and Battler and her family are released from the witch's endless cat box, they would return to the October 6th, 1986. This Angie, of the 1998 where her family never came home, would not get to experience such a future. In fact, strictly speaking, this Angie here isn't even that Angie, but a witch's piece by the name of Angie Beatrice. Now, even if she wins, she will receive no prize. In fact, when Beatrice's game board disappears, this piece Angie will disappear as well. Lambdadelta, on her name as the Witch of Certainty, proclaims that a goal this Angie is capable of appreciating does not exist for this game. Lambdadelta does, however, have a proposal. Lambdadelta's goal is to trap Berncastle here for all eternity. And since Angie herself loses on any outcome of this game, why not instead work to keep it going forever? At least that way, she can spend eternity with her brother. Lambdadelta reveals that since her true goal is a perpetual tie, she has been helping Battler on the sly. Regardless of what Beatrice herself wants, Lambda won't let her win or lose, ever. Berncastle attempted to disrupt this plan by throwing in Angie as a piece, but Lambdadelta offers to let Angie become her piece instead. If she does so, Lambda promises that this game will continue forever, with certainty, and she will even remove the restriction preventing Angie from revealing her true identity to Battler. Cue evil witch laughter, as per the stopping point of this episode.
Hold on, Kyle, what did that sound like again? No, you don't have to. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll just insert the time I did it earlier.
All right, cool. Just cut and
I'll put a
paste.
time code for you.
Yeah, just do like the what, like the
We need
rewind
another
time.
take, Kyle. We need
Yeah.
another variation.
No.
Sorry, I gave you everything I had the first time.
Okay, that's fair. He used up all of his magical power.
I met with a friend recently and she gifted me this amazing mug, which maybe I'll post a picture with it when the episode goes live on social media. And it's like a little witch's cauldron. And
love
when
that.
I unwrapped it, I actually cackled. I was so happy.
That's amazing.
It was perfect. Yeah. It's so
I
good.
love that.
Beautiful.
So this part was the most interesting part of this read. Absolutely. It does mean that all the setup before kind of like has a bigger effect, and I get that. But I think Lambdadelta is such an interesting character in this entire thing. And like we still don't know enough about her as a character to like fully understand. Like, we understand her aim, but we don't understand exactly what she's capable of as of yet.
Right.
And I think that just the fact that she's able to stop time in front of Beatrice's piece, Mammon, and offer this deal to Ange is so interesting, and throws that whole wrench of kind of what the premise of the end of episode 3 was, is that Battler now has a friend. No, Battler has a friend asterisk, friend until he gets too close to the end. And does she go through with this? Does she finally change her mind? Is she actually even Ange? Who knows?
What I love about this is that Ange has already warned Battler against ever fully trusting her.
Yeah. I love that. That's good.
This is the bit of reading that I actually didn't get to finish. This is the one bit, and I'm really gutted I didn't.
Yeah, this was the good shit, Hayley.
This was the shit I was like, I want to talk about this, because this gets back to the game. It gets back to the action I'm here for. Maybe will lead to more red and blue truths, the things I actually care about, the real magic in this world. So, if we know that Ange is only going to help up to a certain point and then just be like, I don't know, that's great. I love that, because that gives so much more credence to why she is here, as opposed to just being the stopgap for all the knowledge that Battler doesn't have. Because if you have an infallible piece comes in, without this part, this would end on episode 4, as opposed to continuing on. At least that's how I feel about it.
This is why I love that she has this internal conflict between wanting to save them versus not getting to experience them being saved. It's so good, and it depends entirely upon how selfish she wants to be, which I think is a really interesting conflict. Always, The Matrix did it incredibly well in Reloaded, a movie most people hate but I love. Neo said, fuck humanity, I love Trinity, I'm gonna be selfish, and that's why that movie rules. And that's why I am so invested in Ange as a hurt and broken person, and what kind of decisions he's going to make going forward.
I can dig it.
Becca, have you ever played Life is Strange?
No.
Oh.
I'm familiar.
What you are just talking about with the Matrix Reloaded, and that choice to go with Trinity versus save the world, is just such an interesting point to be made with that game specifically, with the original Life is Strange.
Bear Bay.
And Hayley, have you played it? Or Kyle?
I have, yeah.
In true me fashion, I started it.
Okay. So you know what I'm talking about, Kyle.
I do, yeah. I kind of know what you're talking about, because I've read about it enough.
It's just such an... I know exactly what choice you would make at this point. And, the way that you have just defined your character, Becca, just through that, your love of Matrix Reloaded is great. And I have no feelings about Matrix Reloaded, but now I have feelings about it. So, thank you.
I honestly don't know what choice I would make in that situation. I just know that I love watching love win out over.
No, I know exactly what choice you would make, because you just said it.
Whatever.
Sometimes the selfish choice is the right choice. You have to live with yourself afterwards.
Yeah, you have to live with yourself afterwards.
You're the only person that you have to be comfortable with, and if you can live with that, the decisions that you've made that might doom other people, that for you, that might be right. It's not necessarily morally right or right for humanity at large, but doesn't make it wrong.
That was so eloquent.
All right, let's do a spin-off podcast where we talk about Life is Strange, because I have feelings.
How about just a podcast where we do trolley problems over and over again until we all understand each other's morals?
I have a board game called Trial by Trolley. This is perfect for it.
Sorry, if one of the tracks has my cat on it, everyone on the other track is dying. I'm sorry.
Wow.
No.
Oh, man. Oh, dear me.
Oh, I'm so excited for the rest of this reading, though. Like, I'm so excited to move on now.
I really wish I'd got to this, because I think it might have alleviated some of my frustration about Ange's magic learning earlier in the episode. So as soon as we finish here, I'm probably going to finish it up and then read straight through to the next one, so that I'm not in the position again.
And yeah, we think that at some point you will be in this position again.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Time is a flat circle.
All of this has happened before, and all of it will happen again.
Yes.
Yeah, just like the Matrix Reloaded. All right.
You're not wrong.
This next bit of reading is shorter, so hopefully that'll help as well. We're reading about 2.5 hours of the VN, ending on the line, "He peeled one open to show her. A black, blunt automatic pistol peeked its face out. After which the clock shows 9:48 p.m. That is videos 61 through 63 of the YouTube playlist."
Anyone peeling anything open is just kind of horrific as an image.
Yeah, I think it's a book.
Well, yeah, he's peeling a banana, and a pistol pops out.
I thought it was a book, and you're peeling open the book to find a pistol. Yeah. Like the pages are cut out.
I thought he was talking about his jacket.
That would also be fun.
Peel open your jacket.
But why do you have more than one jacket?
I guess one
Peel
side
one
of your
open.
jacket.
One open. Oh.
One side of the jacket.
Yeah. I'm firmly of the stance that if you're wearing more than one jacket, you are like a hobo. That is like exclusively the look of a hobo, is wearing two jackets.
So what it actually is that the author has written extensively about the two lapels of this jacket.
Ripping one lapel open to show us.
One lapel.
No, there's only one. He just repeated it so many times, it makes sense grammatically to refer to multiple lapels.
Man, they reference this lapel like 8 times.
Man, it's really going to pay off in episode 7, though, trust me.
After the story has finally started. Thank you, Kyle.
We'll finally get the answer to the lapel mystery.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, Umineko ends at episode 6, so it's a very short
don't
series. Really,
say
you think of it that way.
Wait, are you being serious? Because
Kyle, are you being a hater?
I want to know. I want to know.
I think 5 and 6 are the core of Umineko. You could stop at 6, and I think you could have a very satisfied ending.
Oh no! Bye, guys.
That's where Hayley drops off. 7
and 8 do different things that are important and very good and very enjoyable, but are again different than 5 and 6.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I hesitate to talk so much about like the structure of Umineko, because it's like it changes a lot over the course of its runtime.
I believe that.
Keep speaking in your riddles, Riddle Man.
Yeah.
Damn Riddle Man.
Okay. Well, you'll finally understand what message bottles refer to. Well, that's nice. You'll have all the context for that now.
Oh man. So who do we think is actually saying this? Who peeled one open? Sounds gross.
Oh, like whose monologue are we listening to at the time?
Yeah.
I think it's Battler. I think it's Battler, and somebody found something in a book. Like I said, I still think it's a book.
Okay.
I wonder if it's someone threatening Rosa.
I hope so. She deserves to be threatened. So.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it could be Amakusa. He seems like the kind who would peel one open to reveal a pistol.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally a mercenary for hire.
Yes.
So.
I just need to say, I wasn't here for the last recording. And the way I reacted when Amakusa showed up.
Oh my god. Probably the same as me.
Yeah.
How did you react, Hayley? Because I feel like I went full, like, the mask, like, my eyes bugged out of my skull, and I turned into a wolf, and I started whistling.
I'm absolutely obsessed with him, which I realized today was, or I felt today in the reading that I was doing in the scholar discussion was maybe a little bit hypocritical, because before I realized that we were back in 1998, I was thinking that Ange was like, this was a couple years later, or 6 months later, that's what it was, right? When Ava supposedly sold the library.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh no, Amakusa's here. That means that he's was grooming her to make a pass at her later on in her life, and he is actually a full, at least, I don't know, 15 years older.
Pulling a Yushimiya George. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was a moment in my brain was like, do I care?
Y'all,
Luckily, that ended up not being the case, but still, you had to rectify with yourself on that.
I was like, oh,
y'all
Hayley.
are weebs. Weebs.
Amakusa's just really cool.
I was like, I messaged Kyle immediately, and I was like, I can't believe this emo military boy just showed up to save Angie from being kidnapped. And he's dressed like Jack Skellington going to a My Chemical Romance concert.
Jesus Christ.
So accurate. I was losing my mind. Okay, I needed to get that out of my system. Thank you all.
Well, we shall see who ends up being the person this refers to next time. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope you continue to follow along and, actually read the story as we discuss it, unlike some of us here. But, we forgive and we move on.
Wait, we're supposed to forgive?
But never forgets. Off meta.
Never forgets.
Off meta remembers. That's our slogan, right?
Yes, I'm pretty sure that's it.
You got that wrong.
Never give up,
I
never
think that's
surrender.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us, and remember to think off meta.